Can everyone hear okay? Yep, okay. So I know that I spoke earlier today, but as a friendly reminder, again, my name is Laura Giroux, and I am the membership director at UNA USA. Lots of people ask me what I do, and unfortunately the list gets pretty long. So I think the best description is we manage membership and programs and everything that falls underneath that. So it keeps us busy, but we love doing this work, and luckily we have people in chapters who love doing membership work, and they're willing to talk to you about it. So we're very excited about this panel. Our moderator today is Donna Rosa, and Donna Rosa is the president of the Northern New Jersey chapter. She is also the Mid-Atlantic regional representative, and in addition to that, she also serves as the chair of the membership task force of the steering committee. So she has lots of hats to wear, but it's been wonderful to work with her over the last year as we've taken really honest looks at our membership processes and database. And one of the things before I have Donna come to the microphone, I just wanted everyone to know that during the annual business meeting today that starts at 4 o'clock, I'm going to be doing an overview of where we are with membership processing, the database, and those pieces. I know lots of you in this room know some of the challenges that we've been facing, and I want to give an update on what we've accomplished and what still is coming, and let you guys comment on that. So that'll be happening at 4 o'clock today. So I hope that you're able to join us for that. And with that, I want to hand it over to Donna Rosa. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, it's my pleasure, my absolute pleasure to be up here and run this membership panel. It's something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. So I want to lay a few ground rules, first of all. So we have an hour and a half here, and here's how it's going to be structured. I'm going to have each of our panel members talk a little bit about what they've done in their areas for about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes tops. And then I have a series of questions that I'm going to ask them to, talk a little bit more and get into a little bit more depth. And then the last half hour we'll have questions from you guys, and so that's how it's going to go. One other ground rule that I want to reiterate, which Laura alluded to, this session is about what the chapters are doing for membership development and how that can help everyone else. It's not about we need this from national and we need that, our databases are screwed up. Laura's going to cover that in the other section. So this is about the local chapters and how we can learn from the panelists that are up here. Okay, so I'm going to introduce each person individually. So on my far left is Bettina Hausman. She is the president of the San Diego chapter, and we're fortunate in that we've got 3 members here who have done very different things to grow their membership. So you're going to see that in their presentations, and I think it fits well together. So she's done a lot with the use of local events as a tool to find members, and she's going to talk about that a little bit. They've done a really good job as far as recruiting members at events. Next I have Farah Salim. She's from the president of the Chicago chapter, and she's done a really good job in building a good board and recruiting members, a diversity of members through carefully selecting her board. And then on my right is Divya Krishnan. She's a board member of the Southern New York division from the Young Professional Board. So she's in charge of the Southern New York Young Professionals, and she's also on the steering committee, as is Farah. So she's going to talk a little bit about how to engage with a younger audience and how to use social media in particular. So why don't we start with Bettina? Why don't you come up and talk a little bit, and I will keep time for you.
Thank you. Hello. I'm sorry I haven't prepared much, so I will just try to do it on top of my head. I think I'm speaking for everyone that I started 2 years ago to take the chapter on as a president, and the major challenges that we have, I think it's really clear for everyone similar. It is how do you get the members, how do you retain the members particularly, how do you back it up with programs? And so for me it was truly that I learned quickly that what really attracts me to an organization is probably essentially what everyone else somewhat would also attract to an organization. So I saw it from a perspective of what is it that I want to see in an organization that I want to join. And some of the things that for me is the first thing, as with any job interview too, is like, what does the organization look like to the outside? So what are the current leadership? How does it translate into when the events are being held? Is there something particular that I'm attracted to in terms of, do they have fun? Is it something content? Do they seem to work nice together? Is it something that really speaks to my heart in terms of international issues? How are they backing these events up with panelists? How they're spread out into the community? Are they integrating community partners? So these are the things that I had been particularly looking into when we set up events. And again, crucial is really what kind of a team do you have in your chapters. If your team is really motivated and your team really is on the same page in terms of we are here for advocating for the United Nations, then you really already have a passionate team that is infectious in itself. And so that was one of the things that I really felt strongly we needed. I'm sure it's similar in your chapters. In San Diego, we're very conservative. And the UN, as Chris Wardley also pointed out, has a fairly bad reputation. So it is challenging to find members that really are interested in the UN advocacy and the UN in itself in terms of its work. So that translates into collaboration, that translates into events, what kind of topics can you raise? Secondly, what the challenges in our chapters is that we compete with a lot of great institutions and organizations already. So we have UCSD, which is huge in San Diego. We have USD. We have so many great organizations that are USA for UNHCR. We have the Red Cross, and they all have fundings and resources to bring in great speakers, which we usually lack. So that's when we really realized the best way is truly to collaborate with others, to spread our name at least, to get name recognition, which is particularly important to us as we have been in San Diego since the early 1940s. And we have an office in San Diego since 1961. And when I came to San Diego 7 years ago, no one really knew about UNA. And it's still really a challenge that people still don't know, oh, there's a UNA office. Oh, I didn't even know. And what are you about? So the collaboration, I felt strongly, is really something that we have to build on to really have the resources, spread the resources, share the resources, and have the name recognition. And some of the things that I usually feel is when you're not that known in a community, you can have the trial and error, and people are not too upset if you somewhat fail, because you're not as known, and sometimes it is truly bad press is good press. And so we had, for example, an event started. We talked about, we have a really strong Women's Equity Council, and we were thinking, because we are San Diego blessed with a huge refugee community and a community from Palestine, and so we had an evening with women from Palestine and Israel, talking about cross borders from woman to women, from sister to sister. And in the planning phase, when we reached out to different organizations and universities, 2 days into, I get a phone call, a really bad phone call from the ADL, from the Anti-Defamation League. And I had met them prior to at one of the events that we had at San Diego Comic-Con, where we advocate against bullying. And so I had met them personally, that was a plus, but she was upset beside herself, really. She called me and went on, how dare we, and the UN, and here again, something against Israel, it's incredible. And so I had to tell her what was actually our intention of truly just between women, from the humanitarian basis to really from one to another and not political. And now we are actually partnering with ADL on many other events. And that is true with Rotary, for example. And I heard in one of the sessions earlier today, too, that somebody brought up they don't want to work with us. And in San Diego, we're lucky. We're doing Model UN with the Rotary, supporting the Model UN. I have personal relations with some of the chapters there are many chapters within San Diego. And it's truly on the humanitarian basis that we approach them, that we really take the UN sort of out of the first initial communication, really say, you are for eradicating poverty, you are for the eradicating polio, that's what we're about too, let's work together. And by the way, you were the significant chapter to help to bring the UN about in the first place. So now we're really collaborating with them at the UN Day. Most Rotarians didn't know that. They actually were the absolute driving force for getting the United Nations chapter, even the charter signed. They didn't know that, so they were really surprised.
Your time's up.
Oh, my time's up, okay. Sorry, but key point of recruiting, competitive, maybe very quickly with regards to the membership increase. So we have currently 190 plus members. We have an over 70% retention rate. And I really feel strongly that we have the program that the students can join for free. And I am not driving it too much in our community because I feel strongly you have to have the programs to back this up. Otherwise you have this huge spike in membership because you're out there and driving the membership to please join us and you're for free because you're a student. But I really feel strongly if you don't back it up with programs, then you really, you lose the people for a longer run period of time just because you haven't really given them something to meaningful get involved in. So just that.
Okay,
thank you.
Next.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I thought I would just take a moment to tell my story of coming to UNA because it does set up a framework for the Chicago chapter and what I've kind of been asked to frame up in terms of working with your board. So I am a third culture kid, which as most of you in this room would know means I grew up not knowing where my home was. I have a Pakistani father and a Caucasian American mother from Springfield, Illinois. And I grew up in the Middle East, moving every 3 years. So when people ask the great question, where are you from? I say anywhere and nowhere. And so that really led to me looking for opportunities when I moved to Springfield after graduating from college in 2003. It really led to me looking for an organizational way or entry point to tap into my international roots. In Springfield, Illinois, I'm not sure how many of you have been there or know about it. I know Olga is from Illinois too. It's not a very diverse place. So I found some difficulty, but then I came across UNA USA, and I was going to start a chapter there. Luckily, I met my soulmate, who, although he was born and raised in Springfield, Illinois, was just like me in the sense that he wanted to try something new. So then we immediately moved to Chicago. And so the first thing that I did in Chicago was look for the local UNA chapter. Unfortunately, and in this room I consider it a safe space because we're trying to build upon some of the losses from previous chapter history, if you will. My first foray into the Chicago chapter was a bit interesting. I attended a board meeting, so I emailed, I asked if I could attend, how do I get involved, and it was suggested that I attend a board meeting, which I thought was strange but interesting, and I went. It was informative, and maybe in a different sense than informative should be when trying to volunteer for an organization. There were really, really passionate people around the table, which is what kept me interested, but there was a lack of cohesiveness in terms of goals and in terms of roles. So the two things that I come from a fundraising consulting background, so my two biggest things that I focus on are goals and roles. So I was a little dismayed. And so after I left the board meeting, I wanted to try again. And I said, so what can I do to actively get involved? And there was radio silence. So to be honest, I just kind of, I went about my business and I volunteered with the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, and I became very active in other international organizations. But there was something still biting at the back of my head that I thought, you know what, I just can't leave it, that consulting person in the back, you know, I just had to do something to help. So a wonderful, wonderful opportunity called the Post-2015 Consultations. I don't know how many of you have held them in your cities, but that was my entry point, and my exciting entry point into, yes, I have something tangible and active to do. So I co-wrote the grant. Chicago was actually the first chapter to host the consultation on UN Day. And the process, so we didn't have very long between the grant process and selection and implementation. So it was a really good exercise in determining if the Chicago chapter was going to be successful in A, recruiting members, and B, setting up a more responsive directorship. And the answers to both of those questions was a resounding yes, yes, and yes. So what happened was we actually had so many interested participants, come to the post-2015 consultation in October 2013. That was my solidifying thought that I have to run for leadership. And so with 100 participants, which may or may not seem that large, but with a non-cohesive body, of participation, that was where the new board of directors was born. So you'll see I'm going full circle, that I had to lay the foundation to get us to where we are today. And the board of directors, to me, was the most important part. And we had to do it right. I cast a really wide net because by that time I had the opportunity to network with a lot of internationally minded individuals from the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, Rotary. You know, we're very lucky in Chicago to have this. We are an entry point, you know, to the rest of the Midwest in the world, we like to say. So I was able to bring them into the fold and to really ask them to take on leadership opportunities. And we did have the nominating process. So in January, we were elected for a 2-year cycle. In terms of, how am I doing on time? Okay. For the board, it really was more about establishing goals and roles. So the first thing that I did was I set aside time with each of the board directors, and I said, seriously, what do you want to do? But before I did that, I laid out 3 goals for the chapter as the president. And so every board director had to somehow try and attain those 3 goals through their particular avenues, through their particular roles. So I think that's made a huge difference. People feel a sense of ownership now that they did not before. They have accountability. That was a huge problem in our chapter. And we made them sign membership agreements, and we actually ask all of our board members to contribute. It's only $100 per year, but that's also not only from a participatory standpoint, but it's also from a grant writing standpoint. You cannot go to other foundations, or you cannot confidently tell others about your organization if your own board is not financially and emotionally supportive. So I think that's a big issue that's very, very easy to do. And it doesn't have to be $100, it could be $50, but it's just something to say, I'm in. And so that's pretty much about our board. I'm really happy to answer specific questions. We took a long time as a board to come up with these definitions and job descriptions. So that's something that I think it's not the sexiest thing to do for a chapter, but I think it's honestly one of the most important things. And you really can't engage new members until you have a strong leadership. And I will make one more last point. Because there was a question about retention. To be honest, in terms of retention, we lost a lot of members. We lost a lot of members in the sense that they weren't actively engaged during what I'm calling a lull period. So we're trying to attract those members, and how we're doing that is saying, look at the new UNA Chicago chapter. This is what we're doing. We're really excited. We know that you have the affinity for UNA, so come back, try again. We promise we won't disappoint. So I hope that's helpful. I was asked how many members we have. We actually have about 145, and I do have to say that I'm very, very proud of our board and our chapter, because and I think Laura can attest to this, we have increased by leaps and bounds. I think over 50%. Wow. Yes, so.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Divya, you're up.
Hi, everyone. So I have been involved with the Young Professionals Group in Manhattan for the past 5 years or so. I started off as treasurer 5 years ago and then became vice chair 2 years ago. And actually, our current chair is also sitting here, so if you have any questions about Manhattan and young professionals, you can direct them to her as well. So the way New York works is actually very interesting. I think we got very lucky being in Manhattan and having a very vibrant young professionals group, because we have many people start off their first jobs within New York City. There are a lot of graduate and undergraduate programs focused on international relations and economic development that attracts them to our group. On the same hand, though, we, as Bettina said, we also struggle with competing with organizations like Foreign Policy Association, the New York City Chamber of Commerce, and other sort of similar-minded groups, and all of them have young professionals groups as well. So one of the things that we struggled with maybe about like 3 or 4 years ago was trying to identify the value proposition. What do we as UNA, USA Young Professionals offer to members, and why should they pay the $25 or $50 to become a member here versus somewhere else? And I think what we ended up doing was, for a brief period of time, was we sort of got rid of the notion of membership. We weren't really able to track who our paid members were. We have a listserv of around 1,800 people, but we don't know who on that listserv are actually members. So we sort of went for a brief period of time where we were just actively putting on events. And the way the Young Professionals Board is structured is very, I think, organized. We have a chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary, but then we have committees that are regionally focused. We have an African Affairs Committee, European Affairs, Asian Affairs, and so on and so forth. And each committee director is responsible for putting on at least 2 events throughout the year. And those events can range from academics, so panel discussions, lectures, or speakers coming in to speak on a topic, to movie screenings, film screenings, and then we also have social events. We try to host them once a quarter, so they're at a local bar. They're meet and greets with the board. Sometimes we'll bring in professionals, and the other events we also do are career events, and we also partner with a number of local organizations. So after about like 2 or 3 years of doing this type of work, where we were just networking and sending out the word that, hey, we're out here, this is the work we're doing, we started getting more interest. And we finally ended up on our website, or the Southern New York Young Professionals website, having our own form to sign up to become a member. So on our website, you would sign up with your name, all the information you put on the Nationals website, along with their interest preferences. And then at the end of that form, we'd basically direct them to be like, hey, you've signed up with us now. To become officially a full paid member, go to National and actually pay. And so this way, what we have is a list of people who want to join us and who actually show an active interest, and we'll compare that with National's list. Those who don't sign up, we actively go after them, and we say, hey, you showed interest, sign up, please. And the ones that do sign up with us, do get paid, but accidentally put in the wrong chapter division, which is a whole other set of problems, we're able to actually put them into our division and our chapter. So I think overall we now have about 100 or so paid members specifically to young professionals versus the overall division. And that's really grown over the past, I think, we used to have like around 50 or so. It was really, really tiny. But one of the other big things that helped us was actually Melinda's work when she was our marketing communications director, and she helped sort of build our social presence. So we built our own Facebook page specifically for Southern New York, and that just doesn't talk about young professionals events that we host, but we also put up UN news. We put up events that other organizations are also hosting that our members might be interested in going to. We have a LinkedIn page, and on the LinkedIn page, not only do we put news, but we also put job postings. A lot of people in New York City, young professionals, are also trying to build their careers. So we help them in directing them to various job postings, either from the UN or other similar types of organizations. And we also have a Twitter feed, and we certainly retweet anything from UNA and UN, and post also our own tweets when we go out to various events. And Melinda's very active in sort of maintaining that. The other thing was, when she was marketing chair, we found out that there's marketing work, right, when we have to market our events, but there's also the social aspect. So we actually hired someone specifically for our social marketing chair, and so his sole responsibility is to maintain these websites now and to make sure that they're actively maintained. It's not just like dying out after one event or two events. So I think those are sort of things that we found very useful. We now have gotten back on trying to host events with both member tickets and non-member tickets, and we're now able to keep track of people who are coming through. So retention will be the second step of this process, and we'll see how well people maintain that membership after this initial payment. So, thank you.
Laura, is there a way to pass this around so they don't have to jump up every time they answer? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move into the next section where I will ask some questions, and you don't all have to answer. If there's something that doesn't apply to you, just let me know. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. Understanding what motivates people to join UNA is the first step in figuring out how to make the ask. So the first question that I have for everyone is, why do you think people join your chapter?
I guess I'll start. In Chicago, as I mentioned earlier during my remarks, I think we're very blessed to have a lot of internationally minded organizations, but I think the one thing that we at UNA kind of stand out for is that we're the connecting point of all of these international organizations. And so I kind of liken it to the spokes on a wheel. We are that connecting hub. I don't know the technical term for the spoke on the wheel, but we are the one who brings together Opportunity International, Rotary, Chicago Council on Global Affairs, etc., in ways that they may not have been able to see otherwise. And so I think we're really more of a connector.
That's really interesting.
That's what we're trying to in San Diego. Moreover, we're lucky. In San Diego we have consultative status with the United Nations, so we have applied back in the 90s for that, and so we actually offer our community. We say we have a lot of women organizations, for example, in San Diego, that do not have the voice in the UN, and so we are opening it up every year to the community to be part of the Commission on the Status of Women at the UN in February and March. That's annually for 2 weeks. So we're just offering it to them and say, we would love for you to join our organization because only members can go with us, and this is a unique opportunity for you. And so we're really lucky in that part that we have that really as something that is a huge advantage to our members that separates us from any other organization in San Diego. Moreover, in terms of providing a platform to connect, we offer a lot of committees to get younger members engaged and really meaningful engaged, and also taking leadership, ownership, and accountability. So we have 5 committees. It's the Outreach Committee, it's the Global Classroom, which is essentially education, where Girl Scouts come into our offices and are being educated on the UN. We're going out into the classrooms in different schools. We have the Young Professionals, we have Women's Equity Council, and we have the Art Miles Project, which is led by our UNESCO, National Commissioner of the UNESCO. She does art miles, art murals, paintings. She does it for many years, and she's affiliated with us. And then in addition, we just really, one thing that Chris mentioned too is like know your members, know your community. We saw that just last year, I realized when I was at the UN, there is this indigenous population at the UN that has not been addressed. And San Diego has about 20-something tribes, and we have not addressed it. So we started a working group on indigenous population. So that is taking on really well because young people are excited about it. We have somebody from the Saikan tribe that is leading it currently, is the director of the indigenous population. So you have somebody from the community that has not had a voice within the community, gets out, brings this community into our community and engage the other community around it too. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's sort of really the subcultures that you have connecting with one another. And that is true for our Model UN working group. We had our first annual adult Model UN. So that's for people that never had the chance to do Model UN. So you get them in, it's teachers, it's parents, so the parents will be excited that their children should do it. And so it's really something that we felt strongly, what is out there, what are our members looking for, what haven't we tapped into yet? And so that is something I felt strongly that with these 5 committees and 3, and we have an MDGs working group as well, very newly, because we really want to connect into our community understanding. I'm sure you have heard that people said, UN, it's so far, it's in New York, it's in Geneva. What does it have to do with me? And that goes back to our advocacy and everything, right? And you ask for, we gotta support the UN missions. Really, what does it mean to me here in the community? Our city doesn't have the money to pay for X. Why would we now pay for the UN? So we are trying to identify through the MDGs working group organizations within our backyard in our community that do the work of the UN, like education, healthcare, etc., universal healthcare, to really look, these are the organizations that do it, but they're not affiliated with the UN. And we want to raise their awareness in the community. See, you do what the UN is all about. This is because of the policies being made at the UN, being brought to the Congress, etc., etc. And here's your voice, and here's your organization you can identify with. So I thought that is something that translates into membership and raising the profile of the organization.
Okay. Did you have anything? Yes,
I'll make it super quick. I mean, I've already said it. Most people join our group mostly for career networking and career development, so those tend to be our most popular events.
Yep, no surprise. Okay. Okay, thank you. We're going to have questions at the very last half, so we will get to you. You'll be first, so don't worry. Okay, the next question is very related, but I wanted to ask you guys, do you have a specific pitch that you, when you're talking to an individual or a group, that you, way that you ask for the membership? You know, you're holding an event, you've got people interested, how do you get them to actually join?
I don't think that we have a special pitch per se, but I wanted to mention this earlier, something that in order to address the issue that I personally felt when I was looking into joining UNA was that I didn't know how to become more involved. So one of the ways that we're addressing it as a chapter is by holding general membership meetings that is open to the public, in addition to our regular bi-monthly board meetings. And we held our first general membership meeting, there's 3 this year. The first one was very much inspired by TED Talks. So I asked each of our board directors, who are essentially the committee heads, to basically pitch to the audience. And we had about 100 people who were a smattering of members, but essentially more non-members, that we were trying to convert, if you will. So it was excellent. A lot of people stayed after. We had committee sign-up sheets at that time. Get them while they're hot. And the committee leads, the board of directors, were able to answer questions directly instead of going through an email or a website. You know, join our committee now. This was in person, in the flesh, and it really, I think, made a significant difference in terms of our pitch to get people more actively involved. So it's not only, our focus is not only just to have lay members, our focus is to make sure those members are engaged, and we're measuring that by our committee size.
Similar with us, so we don't have a pitch now.
I think our pitch when we first get people to come is actually join one of our committees. So join the Asian Affairs, African Affairs, European Affairs Committee. Get them to be committee members. We don't actually ask committee members to become paid members until they see the value proposition first. And then once they sort of are there for a while, we have a committee director sort of follow up on membership dues and everything.
Okay, thank you. I think we may have to revisit our pitch thing. Okay. So you all spoke about what's sort of working in each of your area, but if you had to pick just one thing to do to get members to join, what would it be?
Not to say ditto to what I just said, but I really think that having an event, an open house, type of meet and greet, whatever it is, I think that's essential, especially because we're overcoming the idea that the UN is an archaic organization, so we need to be fresh, and one way to be fresh is to put people in a room together and to say, we're going to have an intergenerational MUN. How are you going to be involved? So you're putting the foundation, you're laying the foundation for them, but then you're also asking them the question, so what are you going to do about it? So here's the sign up.
Similar with us, what we are trying is truly, what has worked for us is the top issue or topic currently, right? Like the crisis in Ukraine, when that happened. So we right away, 2 days later, we wanted to do an event on the crisis in Ukraine, because that's something people want to talk about. And so we were able to invite current missionaries and people that were on the Peace Corps that just returned from Ukraine because they were essentially asked to leave. That was a huge success. So we collaborated with World Affairs Council together and the San Diego Diplomacy Council. We had about 110 people there. It was amazing, and many from the Ukraine that really wanted to have their voice heard. And for us, it was more offering them a platform to speak. And for us, at the beginning, we really just mentioned this is what the stand of the UN is to this, to connect it to the UN, but let them speak about what are their experiences, what are their expectations, hopes and fears. And we learned really through this event, people always approach us and say, this was great, it was controversial, it was emotional, but this was great, we really want to see more of this, how can I join you? And I felt that that's really something, this when people are being probably approached, not the pitching of membership, but more here's something what we do, and it's emotional, they want to get involved.
That's a good point, to sort of use the news and jump on that. I think we forget to do, we plan our events and whatever, but when something happens, to jump on that, that's a really good, take advantage of the moment. So, okay, I'm gonna sort of twist it around a little bit. I'd like to know if there's anything that you tried in membership that didn't seem to work well, so that we can keep these people from maybe going down the wrong road, that you wouldn't recommend.
So one thing that we found was telling people, hey, become a member, and then having them sort of go away from the event, and then hopefully they're going to become a member, didn't really work. And so certainly would not encourage that. One of the things that we're trying to do is actually bringing technology into the events themselves. So we started using Square, which is like a free credit card reader that you can actually just pay right there at the event with credit cards. Young professionals don't really carry cash around anymore. And so that's one way we've sort of like getting people to pay at the event itself to become members. The second one that, actually is something that I would recommend you do. We've also, at social events, we raffle off one-year memberships for people. And so that way, if one person's doing it, they know what's going on, and we hope that's going to spread out to, hey, have a friend come in and join, because I have one, you should have one too. So we're sort of hoping that will also spur some more active membership.
What we had problems with prior to my presidency was that when members were trying to get in touch with us, nothing happened. People left voicemails, wrote emails, nothing happened. And so that's one of the things that we really changed dramatically. We have this policy 24 hours, and I know that's sort of corporate, but it's sort of really, I want people to have the response, because otherwise you're losing members. Yes, they're coming to your events, but they will fade out if they don't feel you really listen to them, you take the time to return their phone calls or their emails. And that's something really, I personally feel always, that's a disrespect in a way that just a simple, quick email, hey, we're working on it, or something, thanks for your concern.
I don't know if I would not recommend this, but we're still trying to figure it out. I inherited a board, obviously with the election, there were directors at large positions, and we're still trying to figure that out. What I had asked those directors at large is to find a focus area and to actually identify with that area so that they're working towards it. Again, going back to goals and roles, I should just walk around with a sandwich board that says that, because I really firmly believe in those. And I think that's been somewhat successful to help them to try to visualize how they are a part of the board. But I think it's not as successful. There's a missing component. And perhaps that is just formalizing, you are the board director for UN Women, or you are the board director for the various initiatives that we have, now having, going to host the Intergenerational Model UN. So that's something I just wanted to share with this group, just to think about. And I did want to touch upon one thing. I see the opposite in one of the aspects in terms of asking committee members. We do mandate that all committee members are members, and for me, that's an important component for our chapter, because again, it goes back to that buy-in and that accountability. Obviously, if you're that committed, or we see that if you're that committed to volunteer your time, you should be that committed to say that you are a member. It just makes it look cleaner when presenting to other groups and when presenting to other potential volunteers. So I did want to make that one additional remark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. I think, I think that's a given. You have to be a member in order to, work on the board. We have that as well. Go ahead.
Just to clarify that, so the board itself are all paid members. It's like the subcommittees, like who are removed from the actual board, who are not. We don't ask them to become paid memberships until they realize what the organization does.
And then maybe because of age or that sort of thing, but we do.
Okay, great. Is there anything that you guys would like to do for membership growth that you haven't done yet, and why haven't you done it?
One key goal that I have for the next year and a half is to really engage the consulates and to engage the international affairs people at the mayor's office, and to also engage in terms of membership, the employees of our local representatives. I definitely think those are three key markets that I see us as being significant partners with. And we haven't had a chance to do that. We're laying the groundwork right now. It's baby steps. But I definitely think that's a huge opportunity. In Chicago, that's a huge market in terms of the consulateships.
For us, it's definitely the students that join for free. I'd love to get them involved. I would love to get them meaningful involved, but the programs are just, that means really you have to have people that are almost 30 hours a week really committed to making the programs happen in terms of getting the students involved. Because in San Diego particularly, with all the academia, students come and go, and there's so many to select, and if you're not really grabbing them right there and getting them really excited about the programs, you lose them quickly. The attention is gone. And I'm just really, I'd love to get them involved, and I'd love to sign up all the universities we have. That would be awesome. I think we would get like 2,000 people about, but it's really something where I'm still hesitant to do, just because we can't back it up, and I hate to set the expectations, and people go around in a community and say, don't even bother. They have those here and there, a few, but really nothing that engages me so strongly.
One thing that I'd love to see happen in young professionals at least is to build like a community where people can identify with each other. So right now we have events and people show up, some are members, some are not. We don't know who they are just by face, and they don't know like the board of directors maybe by face. So what I'd love to see happen is that people who became paid members actually identify with them or be like, hey, oh, you were a member, I saw you at the last event, and sort of build that community partnership with each other and build that network within themselves. Because in New York, people are always looking to identify and join with something, and so if we can be that type of organization, that would be a really powerful tool we can use to market to bring in more people.
Good, thanks. It's always a resource issue, isn't it? You know, getting to, there's lots of things you want to do, and it's just, getting to it and getting the people to do it. I've heard several times here that part of our problem is that there's a lack of awareness of UNA. People haven't heard of it. Even people who used to work for the United Nations have never heard of it. What would you do, or do you think at a local level, to try and just create awareness that, people have heard of Rotary, but no one's ever heard of UNA? What would you do, or what would you like to do?
I think, and I did want to also mention this because it wasn't doom and gloom before I came on board. I didn't want to make it sound like that. There were some very successful events that were held in 2013. So that kind of piggybacks upon what I want to say is that partnering again with those that I mentioned, that's the only way I think that you can make significant success in terms of changing people's minds if they already have a negative connotation about the UN, or B, just making them aware that there is a UNA chapter in your area. People want to be involved, but they don't want to be involved just by saying they're involved. I think the times for that is over. I think people want to roll up their sleeves, so you have to assign them, you have to give them that opportunity to do something. I think honestly, doing is really the factor for growing awareness for all of our chapters.
We have pretty good awareness in the universities that there's United Nations Association because we offer internships, and so there's whenever some student is looking for an internship, UNA is coming up. So the awareness is great in the universities. And we have so many interns that we have really to send them away because we're really looking for something meaningful for them and us. Then the question became, how can we raise the profile in other communities, meaning maybe in corporate, etc. So being German, I remember the Chamber of Commerce in Germany, and I looked into San Diego, and there's a German Chamber of Commerce. So I connected with them, and we get students from Germany, interns, for 6 months. We don't pay anything. They're being taken care of, etc. And I learned through that relationship that, and that's probably a good thing to know for you, that any Chamber of Commerce that is from a different country in your city actually has to report back to their country what they have done in the community. So that's true for Germany. So they have to report, oh, we were involved in program A, B, C. We supported this and that, and we brought interns from this country to San Diego, and they're right there. So now they have us in their signature line. When they write an email or whatever, they have community partners, and there's UNA, USA, San Diego. So we're in the signature line with that. Wherever they write an email to, we're right there in their signature line under community partners. And that has helped definitely to raise our profile. It's been now 6 months, so fairly new stage, but I'm really hopeful that we do the same with the Chamber of Commerce of Sweden, etc., that we have, and it will spread a little bit further then.
So I think partnerships is key, yes. I think the other thing that we also do in Southern New York is we not only partner to put on events, but if we see another organization that has a similar type of event, we'll actually ask to partner with them and we'll basically our offer to help them out is to market it to our listservs. And so that way, we're not doing the grunt work of putting an event together, but we do have our name going out there as a partner to host that event. The second thing that we also try to do is we actually try to get high-profile events organized. So the very latest one that we were very proud of hosting was back in February. We had our annual gala, and we basically started working on this a year ago. And we reached high for what kind of speakers we wanted to come here. We were like, you know, Ambassador Power. We wanted her to come and speak at our gala. And what we ended up with was actually a great panel of speakers. We had Ambassador Rosemary DiCarlo come by. We honored Carolyn Stern, who's the president and CEO of the U.S. Fund for UNICEF. We had Ami Dar, who's the CEO of and founder of Idealist.org. Martin Edlund, Malaria No More. He's the CEO of Malaria No More. And Elliot Paraser and Peter Coakley, who were the founders of Upworthy.com. So with this fantastic group of speakers, we basically raised our profile of UNA and who they are. And I mean, they didn't know who we were. And so they now know who we are. We honor them with, you know, with basically awards for their advocacy and social work, and in return, we are basically now sort of we have a partnership now with Upworthy.com and Idealist.org. We're doing a lot of work with UNICEF as well because Carol was able to come down, and also we had over 200 guests attend that event. So now we have 200 young professionals who are interested in our group. So I think the one thing I would suggest is aim high. You know, if you don't aim that high, you're going to aim somewhere a little bit lower, but it's still higher than you ever expected. So I would just try doing those type of things, and the networks that you find within UNA itself is phenomenal. Like, we didn't know we had these contacts until we went out looking for them. So people might not know UNA, but you might know people who know people, and then that's sort of how you build and spread the word around.
Good, thank you very much. Okay, changing gears a little bit here. One of the most recent, or one of our newest efforts right now is looking into retiring baby boomers. This is a group of people, baby boomers are retiring in droves right now. They have time on their hands. We're trying to figure out how to best go after this group, that they have the time to, you know, the interest and the time to go after this. And I was wondering if any of you have targeted recently retired people in any way. No?
We actually had our entire board was recently retired people, and 2 years ago we felt strongly that needs to change. We need young people in the board to attract young people. So we just essentially established a advisory board where we moved the recently retired into, that they can mentor and advise us. So we felt strongly that keeps them in the organization, keeps them engaged. However, the young leader, so I think our average age on our board is about 29, which is, and we have the 23, the numbers, it's 23 board members, so that's pretty good.
That's really interesting. When we, a few years ago when I joined, we were concerned that all of the members were in their 70s and 80s. They had been around since, you know, Eleanor Roosevelt's time, and we thought, well, we need to get young people in. So we have a drove of young people in who, to me, if you don't, I think you mentioned it already, if you don't give them something, they're going to go off. They're very transient. They're like, oh, this, that, I want to do that, I want to do, you know, they're not set. So, so now we've got all of these student members that we need to do something with, and then, so now we're looking at, okay, maybe it's not the 70 or 80 year people, but the people who are just retiring, that may be another group, demographic, because people in the height of their career, which is what I've got in my group, they have limited time. There's just too many demands on their time to be able to contribute what they want. And so either you got to get them younger or older, so that's a tough balance. Okay, I'm going to do one question, maybe two more, and then I'm going to open it. I'm going to open it out in 2 minutes. Let's just do one more question because this is important. The use of technology, it's important. It's important in our lives. It's important to membership. And in fact, 75% of the people over age 50 are on social media. So it's not just, you know, young people, it's everyone. And I wanted to see whether you guys are doing anything particular and creative using social media to gain membership.
Sure, I'll start. So as I said, we have a Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter page. The most important thing if you're going to start social media is you have to maintain it. If you just start it and you do it for a few months and then let it die down, people are not going to be I mean, it's a lot of work to maintain those social media pages. It may sound easy or whatever, but to actually put meaningful content does take time and effort. So I would, have someone specific dedicated to sort of maintaining those pages.
Similar with us, we have LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and then just recently learned, because I used to update all the three, and I just recently learned there's Hootsuite. That is like a platform that has all the three in there. You just update one thing, and all three are being fed. Hootsuite. Sorry, my English. Huut, and then like sweet, like the sweet. And so you have all three social media in there. You just update once, and all three are being fed with the same thing. So that was a revelation for me. That was really great.
That's worth the whole thing right there. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
We are still dabbling with our social media initiatives. I will say that those are definitely something that are considered significant works in progress. We do not have an excellent social media platform nor website, and funnily enough, even though I know this is the way, the entry point for a lot of other members in other chapters, we haven't seemed to have hit. I'm sure we will see an onslaught once we have improved blogs, websites, and other social media aspects. But right now, that's something that we're definitely working on. So, if anyone, I'm taking tips.
One more thing, I don't know if you are aware of Google AdWords. And so that also raises your profile. If you have a website or something, Google AdWords, it's free. Google AdWords, thank you.
Google AdWords.
AdWords, okay. Yeah. So that raises also your profile. You can feed the system when you go in, you sign up. It's for free for the non-for-profit, particularly for us. And you can feed it with specific words that when people search the Google engine, it leads to your organization will pop up on the right-hand side as a suggested web link. So really utilize that too, because that brings more traffic into your website and also raises your profile. Google AdWords.
AdWords.
Thank you.
AdWords. AD, and then Word. WORD. Okay, so let's get to.
So just really quickly, I just want to jump in with the Google AdWords. So we actually recently discovered that Google requires the parent organization to sign up, and the Better World Fund is already signed up. So we've actually reached out to Google to try and figure out a way to make this happen so that chapters can have access to Google Words as well. I just don't want you guys to go there and get disappointed. Just know that we are aware of the problem, and we've already reached out to try and figure out how we can do this with subordinates. So
okay,
just be aware.
Good, thank you, Laura. Okay.
Just one more thing about social media. I think another thing that really helps with events and trying to get people involved, have online ticketing sales. There's no reason not to have them. You get people to come to know about your event well in advance. You will also know some sort of count of who is coming. And also, a lot of websites that do online ticketing sales, like Eventbrite, Splash That, will also have like a Twitter handle or a Facebook invite to send to their friends. So if one person does it, hopefully that'll spread out to their friends as well.
Good, thank you. I'm actually doing a panel later or tomorrow on traditional media, but really traditional media and social media are intertwined. You can't separate them because every traditional media has a website. So we'll get into that later. So okay, now I would like to let you guys ask a few questions. I'm going to start here because and then over there. So.
My name is Gabe Levitt. I'm the president of the Brooklyn chapter. And I'm here so that I get to feel bad and learn about everything I did not do this past 6 months. So I wanted to thank you for making me feel bad.
Happy to do it.
I wish I was joking. This idea of doing all the things that all of you have identified, I've written them down, and some of them I knew about before I sat here. How much time are each of you dedicating on your average month per week, how much time are each of you dedicating? And then how much time is the second person in your group putting in per week on your average month? I'm just curious about what kind of time it takes to do the wonderful things that I think you guys are doing.
We need another microphone.
I don't know if I could count the mileage or the hours, but I think my time ebbs and flows just because of the nature of my day job. I travel out of the country for 7 to 10 days a month, and so obviously then it's a little bit less, but I would say on average probably about 7 to 10 hours a week. And I'm glad that you asked, and that's cumulatively, answering emails and that sort of, and meeting people. This is a great part of my job that I think that people don't necessarily take advantage of, is that you are the conduit to meeting all of these partners and potential members. And we do have a director of membership who meets with prospective members and kind of goes through and talks about things. But it's nice to have an approachable person to talk to who's kind of setting out the vision for the chapter. Our vice president, she actually, so initially, and I talked about our job descriptions for our board, we didn't know because she definitely wanted to have a more active role as opposed to just going to be the supposed next president. And so what we've done is we've really had her serve as a nominating committee chair lead. And I wrote down earlier today to make her in charge of interns, working with interns, because we get a lot of requests and we've never worked with interns. So kind of finding those roles, that's as we're defining ourselves, I think it's taking us a little bit longer per week than maybe some of the other more established chapters or reestablished chapters. But it's definitely, it's a labor of love.
I'm probably not a good example, but I'm about 30 hours a week. And my second in line is our office manager that we are happy to pay. We're able to pay her. She's part-time, it's about 15 to 20 hours a week. But I'm also lucky. I work at the San Diego Museum of Art. I'm as chief of staff there, so I can have the dual position whenever we have our exhibition opening. When I meet people from the community, I'm there as the San Diego Museum of Art. And hey, by the way, I'm also the president of the United Nations Association. So, but yeah, it's been, the last 2 years have been really hectic with regard to that. But I feel that it takes away the work from our committee members, that they really can focus on their committees. Secondly, it gives a great example. They see the passion, they see the commitment, and our team is amazing. As committed as I am, as passionate about it, and that translates out into the community because people see that, and people want to be part of such an organization.
Do you have a membership chair?
We don't have a membership chair, it's all me. So all the retention letters, all the thank you and welcome, thanks for renewing your membership, welcome to the UNA, and so it's all me. So, but hopefully very soon we have somebody.
Okay. Did you want to say anything about that?
I mean, the same, 7 to 10 hours on like normal way, on like a normal week. When we put on these like high profile events, it can get to like 20 to 30 hours a week.
Yeah. Okay, over here. Do you have? Where's the microphone? What happened to it?
I don't know if I
Can you hear? Okay, if you can hear her.
I'm concerned with your members that you say they join a committee, but they're not always members. You are a 501c3, right? And these people are given responsibilities that could have some effect on that. How do you handle that?
So when I say committee members, they're usually the ones who are sort of organizing events. They're not, most of the time, so a lot of things that the young professionals in Southern New York we do is host events. We're not really, they haven't gotten involved in advocacy as much.
So, we'll have people who, they're putting together a panel speaker, like, a speaker, like a panel of speakers. So committee members are the ones who are going out trying to lock down, like, the venue, who are trying to sort of organize the food, organize, the placards for the thing. So they're not doing, like, advocacy work on behalf of the UNA, but they are sort of getting involved and seeing the type of events that we're putting on for UNA, and hopefully, by the time, a lot of members who who are established committee members who will eventually are sort of groomed to take over committee directorship. At that point, they actually do become paid members of UNA. But what we found is it's hard to get people to become a member to volunteer within Manhattan when there are lots of other organizations where you don't have to pay to volunteer.
Okay, Marcia in the back.
Thank you. This has been a very interesting session. I'm Marcia Brewster, Westchester chapter. I think all of my board members are really overstretched because they're involved in so many different organizations, including me. I'm retired but still working more than full time. It's very stressful. So what I was wondering, when you were talking about the event about the Ukraine San Diego chapter, I would have loved to pull off something like that. We have a lot of Ukrainians in the Westchester area living in Yonkers, and that would have been an excellent kind of thing to pull off, but how would I do it? How do I get the venue at short notice? How do I get the publicity out? How do I get the people there? Where are the speakers coming from? It usually takes me 6 months to organize a big event.
Yeah, and do it quickly and take advantage of the momentum.
That's a great question. So the venue was really easy. We took a library. Library venues are free. We was on a Saturday, and we right away connected with the chambers of commerce, with the Ukrainian honorary consul, with the San Diego Diplomacy Council. We really looked into the World Affairs Council, World Trade Center. We looked in these organizations to say, this is what we want to do. Would you mind sending this through your distribution list? Because we already knew from our board members, they are connected with many of the peacekeeping organizations, etc. So we knew we will have people coming back, and we want to grab them right there, fresh off the plane, to make that available to our community. And I'm telling you, it was really in 2 days, it was incredibly how quickly people were signing up, and we had an online registration, and it kept tickering every minute. It was just incredible. So that's one of the things that we also utilized, the free publication in KPBS, or KPBS is the local NPR. So they have online website where you can put your event in there. So it's for free. And so that goes out into the community. Then we have City Beat, which is a free, journal or magazine. We put the advertisement in there. It's also for free. It's all online. So we're trying to get this out Facebook and make sure that our board members are forwarding that to their friends on Facebook, etc.
Okay, in the back there, right there.
I'm wondering, a lot of the various chapter events are rightfully so around pretty serious topics, and I'm wondering if you have had some success around events or programs that were on the lighter side. For example, maybe a fundraising event like a car wash, just a car wash to raise money for Nothing But Nets or for Shot at Life, for something like that, to tie it in with some of our sister organizations. And also, if any of you have had any experience, and if it's resulted in new members by having a table at like the Irish Fest or the Oktoberfest or the Italian Fest, and participating in other community concerts where you had a table, so it wasn't necessarily a UNA event per se, but something that like that. Any experiences along those lines? Thank you.
Yeah, so we have. So I think the fun events that we have, we're in New York City, so bar events are always fun for our members. But we make sure that the bar, like the happy hours, also have some kind of link to one of our organizations. So we'll have we're actually a pitch here. June 24th, 7 p.m. in New York City, we're hosting a summer social, and we're raising funds for UNICEF. So folks can come in. Sometimes we'll also partner with the bar itself, and they'll donate half of the proceeds or a portion of the proceeds for drinks to the nonprofit that we're helping sponsor. As I said, we also had our annual gala, so part of it was the speaker session, the other part was dinner, dancing. And then we also partnered with an organization called Prom in New York City, and basically they invited 200 to 300 social entrepreneurs
within New York, and they had like a huge fair, and there was like, you know, drinks and a social event, and people could basically also, parts of their tickets could be allocated to a specific nonprofit. So UNA Young Professionals was one of the nonprofits that they could select to have their proceeds donated.
That's an interesting question, because I've wondered the same thing. We have so many street festivals in my area all summer long. There's one every weekend. And so I was considering having a table at that. We had a table at Ramapo College, had an international day in April, and myself and Michael Curtin, who's our blogger, went there, and there's a picture on our Facebook page of me and of him and the mascot in the middle. So you know, it's kind of a double take, because you're on the UN page and you see this big whatever it was. So we try and have a little fun with that too. Okay, over here in the back. There.
My name's Tino Calabi, and I'm with NCA, the local chapter here. You raised the question of visibility for UNA. You said that few people know about UNA USA. I'm going to look at the Post tomorrow and maybe other newspapers to find out what coverage this gathering has gotten. Does anybody know if there's any media here or tried to get any media here? That would be a solution if we worked on that to get this kind of coverage. Another idea is, I know Farah and Marcia, who just spoke a minute ago, and they're in areas where there are large international organizations or NGOs, San Diego too probably. But for the chapters that are in more isolated areas where they don't have big international organizations, it occurs to me this. In a chapter in Florida, I know that they have mounted model UNs with adults. You know, we keep hearing about model UNs with middle school, high school, and college. But this group organized a model UN using adults, pastors, newspaper people. You know, it occurs to me that in order to attract some of the people who are about to retire now, whose children are grown, who have more time on their hands, and once they are retired, will have a lot of time on their hands, why don't we figure out some way to organize them to study Finland or Ukraine or Syria and come as representatives of those groups? It occurs to me, and I think I'll try this. I have friends in that age bracket. I'm already 78, so you know, I'm one of the people that you're all writing off, or we've written ourselves off. But what I'm going to do is, amongst my friends who are just about on the verge of retirement or newly retired, I'm going to invite them to my house. But their assignment will be to pick a country, to represent that country, and then I'm going to have 5 people serve as Security Council members, and then let them make a presentation. These people I don't expect will be UN USA members, but that's my way of getting them introduced to it. They're going to come because my wife cooks a decent meal. And they'll come, and then they'll have, as a ticket of admission, they'll have to do some homework and then play these roles out.
I think this has been done already. Didn't we do it in California? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It was your child? Okay. Maybe, Laura, you have a comment? And then
that's Dorothy.
Can you give Laura the,
sorry.
yeah.
Oh, I was...
So, maybe, I don't know, can you comment on the was it California or no?
Actually, several chapters are here.
Several chapters, okay. I know that several have done it.
Absolutely. Several chapters, I'm going to turn around first. Yeah, so several chapters do intergenerational model UN. Sarasota has done it, Northern California Division has done it, San Diego has done it. Who am I missing? Columbus has done it, that's right, big one, Columbus. So there are lots of people, even in this room, you can talk to if you're interested in doing an intergenerational model UN about how to put this together. And speaking of which, there is actually going to be a intergenerational model UN simulation tomorrow evening. So definitely look at that. There are sign-up sheets on the wall over there, so if you want to see how it works, Troy Wolf, our education manager, will be leading that, and so it's an opportunity to see how that opportunity brings together several different generations. And then just one other thing on the focusing on the baby boomers. You'll actually hear more about this during the business meeting, but this is a tactic that we're taking at the national level. I've actually been on several phone calls. Well, I've been on one phone call with a few leaders from the steering committee to kind of plot out how we are going to be thinking about reaching the newly retired. Because this is an ideal audience for UNA chapters. People have time available, people are missing their careers, but we're lacking a lot of basic data. So in the next couple of months, you guys will receive a survey from us asking just some general information so that we can start to put together a profile of who a UNA member is. So be looking for that, and we'll also be coming up with chapter resources so that at the chapter level there can be a very pointed effort to bring this generation into chapters.
Okay, over here. Yep.
So, my name is Jim Olson. I'm the president of the Iowa division, and I have a question for the panel. So in Iowa, we have 3 chapters and 1 chapter without leadership and 1 dormant chapter. And all of these chapters and then all the places in between where our division tries to serve have struggles with membership. And so we've tried to give chapters a membership goal for each year. But it seems to me that our current members and our current board members seem to be reluctant about recruiting members. Sometimes they say they don't quite know what UNA is about. They don't know how to describe it to prospective members. So my question is, I'm wondering if you can give any insight as to how you motivate your current members. What tools do you give them? Do you practice membership pitches? Do you give them incentives? Just anything you can share about how you encourage the current members to recruit.
At the beginning of the year, so I wanted to start from the top and have it trickle down because we wanted to identify our vision and our goals. So we conducted a board retreat. So it was about 5 hours at the beginning of the year in January. And one of the sessions was figuring out who we are, not only who we are as UNA, but who we are as UNA Chicago. And that was exceptionally helpful because even though these people had signed up to become board directors, everyone had their own take on what it meant to them. And so we were able to pepper in everyone's ideas and visions via this strategic planning session. And I think my day job is actually to work with chapters of alumni in Asia, and I'm based in Chicago. So one idea that maybe could be applicable from my day job to my fun job is just using the idea of liaisons. Instead of putting this ominous board director title that may be too heavy-handed at first, especially with some of the dormant chapters, maybe consider having a regional liaison who's on the ground and is kind of just the mouthpiece, if you will, for UNA, and then gain some ground. We've done, in my day job, that's how we succeeded in building chapters in some remote areas of India, so that's helped us.
One of the things that we actually put together is sort of like a one-page pitch sheet that gets stood up in most of our events, like wherever like the signage table is, we'll have like a little checklist of like, hey, if you want to become a member, here are all the things. Maybe something I can give to Laura to include in the big blue book eventually, but we do have that on every sign-in table that we have so people can become members. We don't have quotas or anything.
We have a membership social. We do it twice a year. And it's usually around March and then again in November. And in these socials, we're talking about who we are, what we do, and it's more about really telling them what we're not are particular, because we do get phone calls of you the UN and can you help me, I have a visa problem, etc. And even walk-ins in our office, the same thing that we have to outline. We're actually not the UN, but we can certainly help you to find a contact. So in San Diego, we don't have the problem in getting members. It is truly really to make sure that the members that are with us understand who we are, what we're doing. And not quite sure in Iowa. In San Diego, sometimes our pitch is usually if you want to find or discuss politics and international issues with people that share your interests or international. And I'm not sure in Iowa how that is there. Sure.
I'm not so much looking for the pitch that you use to persuade people to become members. I'm trying to figure out how do you motivate the current members to ask their family, their friends. I mean, who bought your Girl Scout cookies? It was your family, right? I mean, why not? It just seems to be very difficult to get current members to come out of their shell, to out themselves as UNA members, and to ask others to join. And I'm just wondering, so my question is, how do you, maybe we're unique in that we have this challenge, but how do you motivate current members to pick up the phone or just to take a brochure out of their handbag or out of their briefcase and give it to a friend and say, this is something that's exciting to me, I'd like to share it with you?
It's an interesting question. I think it also has to do with motivation. I mean, if people are, if they're enjoying their membership, if they're psyched up, if they're excited, they're going to tell people about it. If they're just kind of members, they're not going to spread the word as much. So that may be one way. And we talked a little bit about motivation. I think Bettina addressed that. So do you guys have, I don't know if you have any other thoughts there. It is a tough one.
Yeah, Jim, I'm so sorry because you probably are unique in that way that you're trying to re-engage someone, right? I mean, totally from the bottom up, right? Yeah. So, I mean,
with all due respect, I don't think I'm unique.
No, but I mean, it's like in San Diego, we do, because our team is so enthusiastic, it's so infectious that they don't have to ask. Yeah. So when they come to our events, they see how well we work together, how excited we are as a team. So they're approaching us. It's not that that's what I mean in terms of unique, because for us, we don't have to ask for memberships. People really somehow almost weekly are reaching out to us and how do I get involved? And that could be because we have the, it could be because we have a UN gift store in Balboa Park. That's also where our office is. So we are fairly visible in a bigger public space. And we have flag rentals. So we have the 190 plus flags from every country that we are out there with a brochure to marketing. Do you need flags for events? Come and meet us. So it's all connected with us, who we are. And people get curious about who's that. So that's what I meant unique in terms of I can't give you really an advice, but really motivate your current members to really be active, and then this infects others in a way, I hope.
One tangible way that we are doing that, because again, as I mentioned, we have an onslaught of new members, and I found this database of age-old membership that we sent a letter to and said, here's our revamped chapter, here are the exciting things that we've done. We've already held a post-2015 consultation, we've held a UPR, so it's bright and shiny and new. I think you have to prove yourself, unfortunately, for those who need to be re-engaged by saying, here's our accomplishments thus far, because they're going to still retain or remember what their experience was, whatever it may be. So honestly, a letter, and when I say a letter, it was in a couple of forms. It was in an email. We also had some people do a very, very limited phone drive, and a phone drive with the people that we went through the membership list, and those who knew of those disengaged members, they reached out to them. So it was a personal connection.
That's my question. How did you motivate those people to make this?
Okay, We've got
So
more
really
questions
quickly,
at time.
I have one thing really quickly. Okay, hold on one second. I just want to address, and I'll give the microphone to you. So, Jim, your situation is not unique at all. This is, I think, if we rose hands right now, but several of you would be raising your hands saying that this is a problem in my chapter. And this is something that I think is difficult across the board. If you don't have a natural stream of people coming in, you have to make the ask. And motivating people to make that ask is hard. If you have someone who likes to do membership, if you have someone who likes to do fundraising, keep them, because they're hard to find. Sometimes it's hard to find those people. But everybody on your board should be a membership person. Everyone on your board should be fundraising for you. But the hard part is the motivation. I will be the first to admit that. And one of the things that I'm starting to see some chapters be successful with is to ask each person within the chapter what motivates them to be part of the chapter. Because when you make the membership ask, it's often not about, this is my pitch of 5 things that I have to say. Because if you give somebody a standard, you should join UNA because you get a lot of emails and you can go to events for a reduced price, and you go through that, you're not going to reach them. What's going to get them is saying, why are you at this event? And then you get the response of, I have an interest in stopping human trafficking. And then you start to make that personal connection, and that's when your members will start to get more motivated. They don't have to say, these 3 things and will you become a member. You're making that personal connection of, if you're part of UNA, you can have this connection to trafficking, or you can have this connection to something like that.
Okay, one last one over here. She's had her hand up. This one here? Yeah.
She's moderating.
Okay, one and one. Last 2 here. Okay, so right here. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. I was wondering, what are some successful membership benefits that you offer your members? Because I think that has to do with motivating them to join.
We are still working through that, and it's kind of a case-by-case situation. So one of the things for UN Day, that's going to be kind of our signature opportunity to say, members, this is for you. You're going to get not only a reduced price, but you will be put on the wait list and that sort of thing. And also you will be visibly appreciated in terms of where you're sitting, and then recognized, because we definitely want to, with this rebranding of our chapter, we want to make sure everyone feels like they're a part of that. Also with our membership, there's the very basic association type things like the newsletter and those opportunities, but we're really looking at implementing a buddy system with through our director of membership and her new committee of membership troops. And so we're hoping to connect the troops with some of our newer members. So I think that's also a mentorship opportunity and a career leveraging opportunity.
Okay. One last question, and then we have to wrap it up, right? We've got another group coming in.
You're going to tell me the answer. It's too much pressure.
Here.
The one I want to respond to the question that Jim had. One of the ways to really get people interested, and especially if they're friends or family or whatever, is to involve them in something. That's what we did. That's what I did when we put together the Adult Model UN. I went personally to the presidents of colleges and all these people who didn't want the United Nations in the area and didn't respect the United Nations in the area, and asked them to participate in this Model UN. They had never heard of it before, they'd never done it. They did. I did the same thing when we had a show. I decided to show a movie because I was trying to get people that interested in the area from in UNA. And so we showed a film with Dr. Ralph Bunch. And they said to me, nobody's going to pay you $35 to see a film. I said, yes, they will if they're black and if they're Jewish, because these are the people that he put. And so we filled that hall with blacks, Jews, and all the community. And it was because, first of all, there was a need for the UNA to try to integrate the organization in the first place. And in doing that, you do that without even talking about it. You select the people and select things that they know and would be interested in. And that's how you get them involved.
Okay, I think we have to wrap it up. I want to thank you guys for participating and thank my panel. I just realized, I just looked at our names. Bettina, Farah, Divya, Donna, Laura. I don't know what that means, but they all rhyme. So, thank you all.